Hello, this is High Templar with a new episode of my Total War Warhammer Mechanics videos, and today we'll be talking about the Regiments of Renown for Dwarfs and specifically melee units, starting from Aircrew Miners. Miners with blasting charges, 9 ranks, quite nice stats. For the miners, they do have additional ammo and they are very good if they can throw their charges. So, because their guys are armor piercing and they also have frenzy, and immune to psychology, on paper they are pretty good. Let's just match them against the Beguns. Beguns have 50 armor, which is bonus for them, but miners are armor piercing, and the Beguns do not have armor piercing, and the miner have 80 armor, so that should be a pretty clean match. We should get out of this victorious. Also, I've put those guys in such a formation that those orcs will not be able to take full advantage of their charge bonus. And now we are getting into the fight. And as you can see, the difference in health right now, the Beguns are dropping, but that was for a moment. Now the Dwarfs are dropping quite faster and they are losing. Even though they have frenzy, even though everything they had, now they dropped frenzy and they are dying. So that wasn't close defeat, that was terrible defeat. Those guys didn't work out at all. So are they not useful at all? Well, let's just try to match them against Longbeards. You don't normally fight Dwarfs against Dwarfs, but let's just see how those guys will deal with their high armor unit. Their armor piercing should be pretty good, and this is also so slow unit, much slower than the Beguns. Let's just see how that satchel throw works. So those Longbeards got single charge and they are trying to get back on there, but they are getting a second throw. Didn't do as much damage, but something. And now the combat is started. The Longbeards are already quite beaten up. We still have we haven't actually used much of our ammo. We still have listing as 3 still. So we should be getting at least 200 more charges from those guys if we wanted to. And as you can see, we are actually winning with those Longbeards. But as time progresses, our guys are getting very tired. The Longbeards are more resistant to the fatigue. We will be getting, it seems pretty clear, we will be getting this win only by a margin. And with 27 men and almost no health, we've won that battle, barely. So still not very impressive, but paying for themselves. Let's see how we should really use those guys. Best use for those guys is obviously flank your enemy and throw the satchel into low targets, into low armor units, because those satchels do not deal much damage against armored units, but they will do a pretty nice damage to the Black Orcs. As you've seen before, they dealt to the Longbeards. They will deal some. Let's just see what will happen right here. We have 2 Gors with shields, and here we have Dwarf Warriors and Aircrew Miners, pretty much the same price for these units. And charge and trying to throw those satchels. As you can see, my guys are not taking much damage. There is only 3 of those guys dead actually, most of them are wounded, but most of the damage are being soaked by the Gors because they only have 15 armor. And those satchels are really hurting them. And with little bit of sacrifice, we are managing to destroy the girls, absolutely destroy the girls, and we still have a very healthy unit of Dwarf Warriors and the Aircrew Miners completely healthy with 2 more satchel charges per man. So almost 200 satchel charges still on this unit. So this is how you should work them, how you should use them, or put them completely on the flank and destroy those tight groups of the enemies very quickly. So let's test another unit, and this will be the Warriors. So we are getting the Warriors of the Dragon Pass. Those guys, and let's test them against the unit that is as expensive as they are. So the big guns again, because you will be playing a lot in the campaign against big guns, and people use orcs a lot since recently. So those guys, nothing special about them really. They do have height, charge defense versus launch and magical resistance, but they are actually dealing also flame damage, and they have bonus versus infantry of 6, which was not present before. Quite a substantial boost for the unit. And let's just see this charge in the slow motion. 9 charge bonus, 26, so the orcs will obviously win on the charge itself. Quite a nice charge animations. And the orcs will not stumble much. Those dwarfs are sent flying. And as you can see here, this is even combat, even though, you know, we've gotten a charge. After a few seconds, we are losing because the charge bonus have taken in, and but this will take about 20 seconds before we will be back into the even combat because of charge bonus. Charge bonus will die down in 30 seconds. So even combat, as I mentioned. And now let's just see how those Warriors of Dragonfire Pass will deal with the big guns. Mind you, those guys have also fire damage, so they will be very powerful against some of the units that are vulnerable to fire. And that's it, they won. I know, there is not much health left on those guys, but there is still 50 men left in this unit. And they do have additional bonus of using fire. So what is afraid of fire? Trolls. Trolls are considered to be very good anti-dwarf unit, which I do not agree. But they are armor piercing and anti-infantry, which is, you know, everything that dwarves are. They are all infantry and all armored. Let's just see how those dwarf warriors will handle the trolls. Mind you, trolls are regenerating, but this will stop them from regenerating. And after it's pretty even, I would say, but the trolls lost 2 guys, the dragon warriors has lost 9. And the trolls will try to charge again. However, they actually killed my lord, which is inside this unit. But the trolls are losing pretty handedly after this charge, and we still have a lot of men alive in this unit, a lot of health alive in this unit. And the trolls are armor piercing anti-infantry and quite more expensive than the dragon fire pass warriors. So let's try to look into another unit here. And I apologize for my voice, but you know, I am a bit ill. So the next unit will be actually our Longbeards. And I do have 2 tests of the Longbeards. Firstly, matching them. This is unit that actually cost 1000 against the Black Orcs, who cost 1100. So cost-wise, Black Orcs are better, or so they are supposed to be. They also have significantly more charge bonus, so I'm getting rather tight formation here. And we're charging. So those guys losing on the charge, but now it's straight after the charge is even combat. Although you do have to remember that this charge, actually this particular charge, would be better if it will be initiated by a player, because AI can't really charge very well. Not that it will be much difference, because Black Orcs have only 30 charge bonus, but it is a difference. However, as the battle progresses, you can see that those guys are fresh, those guys are winded, and quite obviously the bonus, very interesting bonus that those guys have, are winning the battle, and this is Old Grumblers. Every ally in the range of 45 meters, which is quite a big range, is getting plus 30% vigor, and that means they are not getting tired at all. Just like this unit. And this is very important if you are playing Dwarfs, because if you are tired, your melee defense is dropping quite substantially by 20% and then even more. And the most important stat in your Dwarfs is defense. Even those, those guys are attack unit, but they still have higher defense than attack. So yeah, and those guys are already winded, and when they will start to be even more tired, it will be even worse for them. And the Black Orcs are handily defeated by the Grumbling Guard, even though they were more expensive. This is not ideal scenario, because you should not use those guys this way, but as you can see, they can, in the straight combat, they can more than pay for the Orc upkeep. Very good unit. You should use it for the support and for flanking, because you don't want to lose them too soon. But even if there is 5 of those guys alive and still in the battlefield, keeping them close to your units will keep them fresh. And this is absolutely important. So this is another scenario, and I don't actually recall this one. Oh yeah, I wanted to test if I'm charging at those Grumbling Guard, it will be better, because it was pretty close, and in most cases, if the AI is charging, it will be much worse. And as you can see, those guys have taken much more damage, but it is going into even combat right now. No, they took too much damage in the initial charge. So like I said before, if that was player versus player, and as you can see, that was pretty similar fight, but in the other way around. So they are pretty much the same strength. Still, our guys are cheaper, so it is a good unit. Just don't use them like that in a combat, because their buff is just too important to lose it. Right. So the next unit I do want to test is Slayers. And the Slayers have Dragonback Slayers actually. They have a very important new ability, and this is Charge Defense versus Launch. they were vulnerable. They were great against cavalry if they charged, but if they were charged, they were breaking pretty fast. And the other thing that is amazing about the Dragonback Slayers is physical resistance of 20%. So with everything here, and they also have power of the Dragonback, which is not that useful unless you are using it with some blasting charges with some the warriors of the Dragon Pass, who are actually obviously dealing some fire damage, and it's also slowing down your enemy. And this is very important, because if you are fighting cavalry units, slowing them down for 36 seconds will disallow them to break and run away, and you will kill them, and that's very, very, very important. Those guys cost only 250 more than regular Slayers, but have 12 more melee attack, additional physical resistance, and charge bonus against large. So you would be silly if you are considering Slayers and not taking those guys. Really, there is no excuse. Those guys charge me in the back, so not of this charge defense actually worked out, but as you can see, the Reichsguard are melting pretty fast. And they are dead. That's it. So you just have to be careful and make sure they are actually full stop, because if they are running, they will not get this charge defense, and that will be the end of them. Finally, because I want to test Ironbreaker at the very end, Ironbreakers, but let's first test the Hammerers, because Hammerers are one of the most important and coolest units that Dwarfs has. They have amazing damage of 50. That's a 100 guys having damage of 50, and they have very good stats, and if you use them to flank your enemy, it's game over. And those guys cost 1600, whereas chosen with great weapons 1400. So 1600, 1400, those guys are more expensive, and they do deal thunder armor damage, which is, something additional you should be keeping in mind. It seems that it's working the best on the units with high armor, but it's actually working the best on the units with low or medium armor. It's going to work amazingly if you apply this buff to the Biguns and then charge them with some other units, non-armor piercing units, because they will have pretty much no armor and everything will go right through. But let's just see this. Chosen with great weapon, amazing unit, one of the best units in the game when it comes to melee fight. And then they are fighting the Piggate Guard, which, as I mentioned before, are more expensive. The damage is actually greater on the Piggate Guards, and they have more men, but obviously much less health, less armor, but with the buff it's the other way around. The stats are much lower on the Piggate Guards, because they only have 44 melee defense. Sorry, the Piggate Guards have 38, where those guys have 44, and 46, 56. So it seems to be quite a solid opponent for the Piggate Guards. But still, obviously, those guys are more expensive and are winning, as you can see. Still, there is not like many of those guys still alive here, only 33. So how should we use those guys? As I mentioned, we should be using those guys as a flanking. force. We shouldn't be going against the Chosen with great weapons because that might not work out too well for us. We will lose this unit. I mean, it would be good exchange, but not as cost effective as you would think. However, let's test them against something slightly less powerful, but also much more commonly used in the multiplayer battles. This is Black Orcs, and every player is bringing Black Orcs to the combat. You would see Chosen not very often because quite obviously they are very brittle to the range attacks, especially from the Thunderers and Handgunners. Here I am using 2 Longbeards units to tie those Black Orcs. Normal Longbeards, not great weapon variety. Although great weapon variety will work pretty much the same way. Will stand for less, they will not hold for that long, but those guys would, and here we have a charge, would kill more orcs, so you know, there's that. That was not the best charge. I was kinda hurrying myself into the fight because both of my Longbeard units were already quite beaten. But I did make a charge on those guys, and let's just see. Even with the charge not being that great, I've managed to rout this unit pretty quickly. Well, now, I guess. And now I'm retreating and recharging straight into that blob. And these guys, 3 Black Orcs, they cost 3,300. So they are actually more expensive than the Longbeards and the Pickgate Guards. And as you can see, we've won that pretty handily. We have still many of those Pickgate Guards, and we have some Longbeards still on the battlefield. So this is how you should work, how you should use these guys. Are they worth their price? I don't believe so, because they are so expensive. They will be focused. They will be focused by your enemy artillery, by your enemy range. So I guess you could bring them against vampire counts. You can bring them against beastmen because they don't have either good artillery or range units. No armor piercing. But apart from that, I would be careful. I would be really, really careful. And the last one would be against Iron Breakers. So the Iron Breaker is a unit that is excelling at fighting mid-tier infantry, low-tier infantry. And this is the fight against Goreherd. As you can see, we have 4 Goreherds. The Nordlings. These are Regiments of Renowned Iron Breakers, the final unit in this test. They look amazing, and they are even more amazing. They have very high stats, very high melee attack, and amazing defense. No charge bonus, but they do have charge defense versus all and immune to psychology, and they do have vanguard deployment. And yeah, charge defense versus all, which is all the guys have. But they also have 20 more men, and they only cost 250 more than your normal Iron Breakers. So I know 1550 is quite a lot, but those 4 Gors costing 2400. And let's just see how this will work out for the Gors. So as you can see, not much damage on those guys so far. They are still fresh. They are winning decisively. Still throwing some of those satchels down to the half of their ammo. Only 10 guys died, 11 right now. And the Gors are melting away pretty fast. This battle takes quite some time, as you can see, but Yeah, they haven't actually lost that much, and there is still a battle raging here, but it is pretty much a given who will win. The Nordlings, let's just see those stats. 312 kills, and there is only 22 guys lost on this unit. So this is something that should tell you how good this unit is when they are fighting 4 units costing 2400. So obviously, what is the best counter for those guys? The best heavy armor piercing infantry in a game. So the Chosen, right? I mean, the Chosen are less expensive, but they should be pretty good. Because that's not that much of a price difference, only 150, and at the same time, the Chosen are armor piercing and the Nordlings are not. So how this will work out for us? As you can see, 5-minute battle. Some of the satchels were thrown, but not dealing that much damage. However, they do have quite a lot of these satchels, and brought those Chosen very slow unit to quite low health. And this is not going very well for Chosen, as you can see. In fact, the Chosen, who are supposed to be a very good measure against the Nordlings, are losing. Obviously, 2 warriors with great weapons, one with flanking ability to go all the way around and attack it, would do better, but they wouldn't do great. And in the final battle, 82 of those guys still alive after the fight with the Chosen. So yes, those guys are that good. But how good are they really? Let's fight the big guns. Big guns have better armor. And let's fight 4 big guns. So quite more expensive. 2800 cost of the unit. And they do have 50 armor, so that is an issue. I didn't Vanguard deploy them by mistake. But the combat will start right away. Some satchels thrown. And yeah. So it should be no actually surprise that those guys will win this fight. And they will win this fight quite decisively. They are actually winning all the way to the 5 unit of big guns. But you have to disallow your enemy to flank you completely, to charge you in the back. The Iron Breakers do have charge defense versus all, and they will, so no matter if AI is playing like that or your player, it will work out the same, as long as you do not allow for those guys to be hit in the back. But you can just put single unit of Dwarf Warriors, and you will still be way below the price of those guys. Half of the health, and 79, 78, 76, okay, 75 Nordlings in this unit still alive at the end of the combat. That is something. 272 big guns killed alone, and those guys didn't take that much of a hit. In the 5 versus 1, yes, they are almost dead. But apart from that, they will be winning quite substantially, and their only weakness is obviously being focused by the artillery or by the range unit. And in that, if you are afraid that might happen, if you are fighting against, say, the Empire or the other dwarfs, you shouldn't bring those guys to the battle, because they will focus them, and they are amazing units as long as they are not getting killed from the range. But even if your enemy has some handgunners, you can still throw satchels at them. And you will still win, because the handgunners have a pretty low morale, and if they are being hit by many satchels, they will run away. And those guys do have ranged attack, so something to keep in mind. And this is it. I hope you like it. If you did, press like, comment if you will, and see my other videos. In Total War Warhammer, I do mechanics videos, I do DLC analysis and speculation videos, but I also do Let's Plays in Total War series and other games. Thank you for watching, and see you later.